Good morning, everyone. Good morning, fam. How are you doing today? Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Good to see you all. Hope you're still sleeping in or whatever you're still doing on your Saturday morning. Thank you for borrowing me some of your time. I know sleep is precious. So we're just waiting a few minutes. Welcoming you. Feel free to share with friends, especially people who are single. I see our guest for today is here already. Excited. Good morning, all. All right. So I want to appreciate you all for at least choosing to spend the first few minutes or first few hours of your day with us. And I want to promise that it's going to be worthwhile. Thank you so much for being here. I want to appreciate our guest for joining. Also, we're going to be bringing her up in a little bit. So again, feel free to share with your friends, especially people who are single. And let's get this started. So I want to appreciate you all. With respect to time, I want to introduce myself. My name is Funke Oladele, and we are kicking off the dating and relationship conversations. So this is meant to be meaningful. This is meant to really dive deeper into the world of dating and relationship and really talk from the perspective of people who've experienced it or people who have knowledge and expertise in it, and being able to weigh in and share knowledge and provide an avenue for people to ask questions as they prepare for their life partners. Welcome. I see you all joining. Thank you. So typically there are major life decisions that we prepare for. Major things in life. Education. You go to school for years to get into a career that you hope you love and want to do for some parts of your life. But those kind of things or decisions that we make, maybe to go to school or what kind of school you want to go to or the career you want to choose for your life, you spend years preparing for those and you get education, you do preparation. However, the issue of finding someone to do life with, it looks like it's just left to chance sometimes. We're doing trial and error when it comes to looking for a life partner. We're not investing as much time into preparing for that person that we want to spend our lives with. And then you find people making a lot of mistakes, not knowing what to look for, not knowing what to do. It's not as linear, and typically life is not linear, but sometimes we can do better by preparing. Investing more in ourselves. If you want to make more money, you find out where the money is, right? You do. Welcome. No, we're not on Facebook. It's all Instagram Live. Thank you, sis. Sister Muji, please share with friends. Yes, we want to do it on Instagram. So it's mainly on Instagram. We found out that it's better just to have one focus rather than having multiple places. In most cases, and if we find a lot of demand, maybe we'll figure it out for next time. But we want to have one focused place to direct people to, so it's not like fragmented. But we can consider that in the future. Thank you so much for sharing. Please, share with your friends. In case there are people waiting on Facebook. Maybe I'll have one of my people here online share on Facebook that it's on Instagram Live. Please support in doing that. Thank you, my support team, unassigned support team. All right, so like I was saying, we prepare for life, but the issue of finding a life partner, we don't prepare so much for, or maybe there's not enough support that you can get for it, and then so people are left scrambling or doing trial and error trying to figure out how to go about that. And I believe that marital problems have their roots in the dating and relationship phase. The kind of mindset you carry around for your dating period or what you think about marriage. And some have deeper roots in family dynamics. However, when you purposely choose how you want to target your life and what you want in life, you can change the dynamics of your background, like family background. So the issue of finding someone to marry is really you taking life at your fingertips and making decisions of what you want. However, if you don't prepare, failure to prepare is a recipe for failure. Really, if you fail to prepare, you're eventually gonna fail. So that's why we're doing this. So I am honored today to start this conversation. We'll be doing this from September through October, starting today through the month of October. On some days we would have people come in, and on some days I would go solo to talk about specific topics. So today I'm honored to have with me a guest who's an influencer. She and her husband, they are curators and content creators at The Shofs. And their tagline says it all. Let's make marriage fun. And you can see it all through their page. And when you see that, you just kind of wonder, they just give you that marriage goals or relationship goals vibe. So they make it so much fun. You can't fake stuff like that. I want to say you cannot fake stuff like that. And so I'm excited to have her on. Her name is Abisola Shof, and I would be bringing her up at this time. Abisola, if at this time you want to request to join, and then I would add you. Oh yeah, there we are, Abisola. I might bring her on at this time. There you are. I believe I did it right. And forgive me, it's my first time of doing Instagram Live, I want to believe. Yeah, I'm a podcaster. I do podcast. I could go, do other stuff, but like coming live on Instagram. Oh, no, it's not the first time I lied. It's been a while. Welcome on the show, Abisola.
Thank you.
I don't know, we can't hear everybody clap, but you can just clap where you are at. And let's welcome our guest for today. We want to appreciate you for coming on this dating and relationship talk. We are honored to have you. Really, the vibe we get from the shows is just undiluted. It's like we can feel the love like steaming. A shout out to your husband right now, still doing husbandly and fatherly duties, right? So thank you for coming on. We want to welcome everyone that's joining. My name is Funke Oladele, and we have Mrs. Shof, Abisola Shof here online. We are going to be talking about dating and relationships. So it's dating and relationship conversation today. And so welcome, Abisola.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to join your sessions on relationships and dating. I like this kind of stuff, so I'm excited about it. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, I want to put the comment here, dating and relationship conversation. So people are not wondering, what are we doing here? It's about dating and relationship. So you have people who are single. You want to invite them to join us at this time. You don't want to miss this. I was talking about intro for people who are just joining us right now. I was saying, like, we prepare for life. We prepare for school. We prepare for education. When you want to make more money, you prepare for it. However, how about preparation for the person you want to spend your life with? You can change your career anytime, any day. But really, marriage, if you approach it right, with the right mindset, you should be shooting for life, right? Should be shooting for that. So I'm gonna have you talk at this time. You can do your own quick intro. We get to hear about you, and we will go from there. Welcome.
All right, thank you. Again, thanks for having me. For those who don't know me, my name is Abisola Shof. So like Funke said, my husband and I, we have an Instagram page together, TikTok and YouTube. We're all everywhere. And essentially our goal is just to show that marriage can be fun. It can be happy. It can be a happy place. It can be something that you enjoy. I know a lot of the narrative that we see on social media is marriage is so hard. I mean, yes, it's hard because you have two different people who grew up in two entirely different homes and in some cases entirely different backgrounds that are now coming together to live in one house, sometimes one small one-bedroom apartment or a studio. So it's that in itself is a challenge. And now you have to raise, in some cases, if you have kids, you have to raise these children, and it's like, oh my God, what's going on? So I think even in that, it can be a beautiful experience. And I always say this is that there are a lot of happy marriages. Not everyone comes on Instagram and does dances like us. Not everyone comes on, YouTube and starts doing all these things. But in their individual private homes, I promise you that there are people who are thoroughly enjoying their marriages and having fun in marriage. So our goal is really to make people to aspire to this, make people to look forward to marriage, for the single ones to look forward to marriage, for the married ones to be like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we not enjoying ourselves? Why are we fighting each other all the time? So long story short, that's our goal. It's just, take life easy, enjoy your partner. Marriage is good. It's good.
So you get the right person, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And prepare well. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I think what you just said. Many times, I think the narrative out there is making marriage look scary to people. And show at this time that people are marrying late or choosing not to even get married at this time. And how did we get here? What happened, along the way? So we want to talk about our own experience, our own views, our own opinions. I'm married. I've been married for about 6 years now, going on 7 years. I don't know how long you've been married, Abisola.
I've been married for 9 years.
Oh, beautiful. You guys are just like, you're still in the honeymoon phase. It's so amazing. Awesome. So I do know that the years that you've been married or that relationship you built didn't just happen. It didn't just poof up out of anywhere. There are roots that have gone deeper into that relationship. So we want to take you back into your single days now before meeting Mr. Shof and all of that. And have you kind of share with us, actually, we want to start with the basic of dating and relationship. We see this words being thrown around, and sometimes you hear people, oh, I'm dating. Sometimes they use it in the right context. And sometimes they're referring to, I'm in a relationship, so I'm dating someone right now, or, I'm dating my boyfriend, or whatever it is. Tell us, in your opinion, what is dating? What is being in a relationship?
What is dating? It has different definitions, like you said. I personally, I would say I'm dating someone if I'm in a relationship with the person. I'm married now. For those who are watching, I missed the intro. But, if I were before marriage, if I'm dating someone, I would say that I'm in a relationship with that person. And me personally, I would not get into a relationship with someone that I'm not considering potentially getting married to. I know that is extreme. And for that reason, I don't just date. I only dated one guy before I met my husband, Shay. And yes, we met each other early. But still, I don't just date because I want to have fun. What's the point? The whole point is I want to be in a relationship with you leading up to marriage. If, after the period of time that we know each other, we're like, okay, you seem like a sensible person. Let's get married. Not just, what are we doing here having fun? So that's my definition of dating. But I know that it's 2022. The Gen Z generation, and even every generation now, they're kind of flex and very relaxed about the idea of dating. So I know it's very different for everyone.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I ask that because typically, people use this words interchangeably. And I like to clarify kind of from my own point of view, and even for the literal meaning of dating. Dating typically is that phase in the relationship where you are trying to look for someone you can potentially be in a relationship with, that you can potentially spend. Dating is typically just meeting someone, really meeting up someone to meet. And I used to make that mistake. Well, it's the dating phase. You're dating, you're in a relationship and whatever. But literally, dating is, I like to liken it to that interview phase. Like you're trying to meet up with someone and you want to see something about them to see if they're potential. Like you said, you like to date intentionally, to see if you're not seeing a future with that person, or you date to want to get married. So dating is that place that gives you the opportunity to see if this is someone I really even want to go into a relationship with. So you can meet anyone. You can really date anyone, which typically means not in a relationship, but I'm meeting up this person and seeing if I can potentially be in a relationship with. And so we find in some cases people are in the dating phase, throughout the phase of their relationship, still trying to figure it out, still trying to see if this is the person I can potentially be with, and being in a relationship, like you said, is really, going deeper to see, to see working towards marriage. So for us, I'd like to ask, like, what are the essential tools to have in mind in preparing for this dating phase? If you want to date, what should a person kind of consider in their mind approaching dating?
That is an interesting question. It depends on your intention, right? If we're along the lines of what I described, is I'm trying to find a long-term partner, a soulmate, or whatever you call it, a spouse, I would look for the things that would make me happy. And it's different for everyone. So we've done a video about this, like when people say, oh, I want someone who's tall, who's light-skinned, I ask the question, why? Why do you want that? Do you want that because that's what everyone says and that's the standard? Like, that's just like, it's a thing. Like, everyone wants a tall guy. Do you really want a tall guy? Like, why do you want a tall guy? So I ask myself those questions to that level of detail, because otherwise you're sifting out people who, for no reason, right? If it doesn't really mean that much to you, if it's something that means a lot to you and you have a story behind it, say, everyone in my family is tall. I kind of like that idea of, I'm used to being tall. My dad is tall. I like it. That's the vision. I think I get it. But if it's just, I don't even know why I want a tall guy now that I think about it. You know what I mean? So for me, I come up with, these are the things that matter to me, Abisola. That doesn't mean that to Funke, it matters to you. And so my list may be very different from yours. So I come up with, these are the main things that I call it deal breakers. If you don't have it, don't smell my perimeters, and for me, for example, there are things like, are you Christian? Do you believe in God? Do we have the same faith, value system? Who are you as a person? Are you even like a decent human being? And by that, I mean, are you pleasant to people? So if I were not your girlfriend or your wife, like, would you treat me nicely? Would you buy me a water if I say, hey, I'm really thirsty, I don't have water, I don't have a home? Like, who are you at the core of your essence? Are you even a good person to start with? So are you always just bitter about people or about things or about life? Like, what is your perspective in life? So I know these are boring, but for me, like, these are things that I'm like, from the first conversation, and usually from the first conversation, you can tell where the heart of a person is. Like, I don't care how much you fake it, you can see through things. You can kind of tell if someone, like the examples or the stories they tell when you go out for dinner, it's like, whoa, you did that? Like, yo, you're weird. Or like how they treat the waiter or the waitress, those kind of things, you can pick up on it. So for me, I would say at the core is your faith. Do we believe the same things? Do we have the same value system? Do we value the same things? Yeah, and are you a generally nice and kind person? And of course, like, it doesn't have to be that deep. Like, you can actually have just like random things that you're like, I kind of want my husband to have this, and that's okay. Like, you can have those, just random things that I'm like, I want my husband to, be this or be that. Like, you can have your thing. That's fine too, but just have a why. Like, why do I want this? Why do I want a husband who's a doctor? Is it because he's going to be rich? Well, you can have an IT husband who is going to be rich. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just asking yourself those questions, so you're not unnecessarily weeding out people from potential partners, because the pool of people that have sense is already small. So you don't want to reduce that pool of people some more by coming up with all these criteria that, when you really think about it, it doesn't even matter to you anyway. So yeah.
Thank you so much. That was loaded. So I hope everybody caught that. First, I want to welcome everyone who's just joining us. We're talking about dating and relationships. So this month, September and October, it's about dating and relationship conversation. So we're talking with Mrs. Shof this morning. She is giving it to us quickly, hot. So she just talked about what things are essential in approaching dating. What should you even have in mind? And I'm hearing value system. Values. So your values are important. Your personal values. What do you stand for? And I'm hearing her say for her, she was looking for someone who was a Christian. Faith was important to her. So what is your value system? What is that number one, like concrete foundation for you that you can no? And that's what she's saying. What are your no-nos? Like some people approach dating and relationship with the mindset of, we'll see, let's just see, I'll go for anything and anyone. And we are bringing this conversation to really kind of like get our minds towards thinking about the right things, thinking about what you should really have in place, not just living it to chance. I said earlier, you're not living your education to chance. You're not living your career to chance. You're not living money making to chance. Why is the option of finding a life partner being left to chance? She talked about what you're looking for, your intentions. Your intentions, not just like, I want a tall, dark, or light skinned girl, or skinny girl, or fat girl, or, you think about, I think that's deep. That's really deep. And really, what you said is kind of similar to me. Like, not dating for fun. I don't date for fun. I need to date for fun first because I'm very scared of my heart being broken. So I guard my heart so much. So you want to look at what you're looking for so you can filter out what doesn't matter to you. Really. So, and that's what I'm hearing from what you said today. So I hope people are taking notes. Again, please invite your single friends. Invite your single friends. This is for everyone to be able to learn and think about what they should look for. Even thinking about how you're dating right now so you can still turn things around. If you're not married, I'm telling you, you're still like hot in the market. You still have a lot of opportunities to try to get it right so you can have a great marriage. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I'll add two more things that just came to mind. One that I remember that was a big deal for me was how people manage their money. I am more on the conservative side when it comes to spending, and that's okay. Everyone spends differently, but I think that subconsciously, even though I never had this checklist of, is he a big spender? I think subconsciously in my head, I always observed like, how do you handle, or what is your relationship with money like? And for me, that was like a major deal breaker. Like if you're just like blowing it all up just because you have it and you're not retaining some like saving and investing, like, and it comes up on the first or second day, you will know how people treat money or what their relationship with money is. So I'll say that was definitely a big deal breaker for me. Another thing that I wanted to mention, because today is September, this month is September and it's Sickle Cell Awareness Month. One thing that I want to bring up is always at the forefront asking the question of what is your genotype? And making that a big deal enough for it to be a deal breaker before you get emotionally involved with the person. By the time you get emotionally involved, and I say this based on experience with Shay, we were already like in. So at the beginning, when he says, hey girl, I like you, hello sir, what's your genotype, And for those who don't know, it's the whole genotype compatibility, trying to avoid sickle cell as much as we can. So I have tons of videos about this on YouTube if you want to go more into this topic, but I just thought I would throw that out there.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. So yeah, and I would like to say, like, with what you said, people just go into a relationship for, I fell in love, so everything else does not matter. There are things that matter. Like, what are your deal breakers? If you are single right now, you really should have deal breakers. And it goes back to your value system again. Knowing what you want, knowing what you're looking for, so you can filter out the things that don't match up with those things. You don't have to excuse things that are not matching up with what you're looking for. And really, we're going to talk later about sometimes are you being, too strict with whatever you're looking for. But really, it's okay to have your deal breaker. That makes you you and makes someone else something else because it's not on their list. And thank you for sharing that. Genotype is very important so that we can avoid sickle cell and really love. Yeah, love is what it is. However, you look down the line, things change as you build a relationship, and some things just, yeah. let's be conscious of that. I don't want to. It is sensitive, but when you do things earlier, it helps you to avoid heartaches and pain down the line. That's part of the reasons why we're doing this live, why I'm doing this and talking about this. Think about the things. Let's talk about prevention before we start looking for band-aid on our marriages down the line. It starts from when you're single. Look for the right things and make sure you start avoiding problems later. So good. So we've talked about what a person should have in mind before dating so you can filter out people. And I like to ask, like for you, are there practical examples you can give of how you were able to filter out people and, you know, your own experience and how that kind of helped you to move on to people you can potentially be
Wow.
with?
That's an interesting question. So I feel like I never really got to experience, in quote, the dating phase because I was 20 when I met Shei. I was in college, for crying out loud. I was like, it was the end of my junior year. We were about to go into our senior year when we met each other. So I don't feel like I ever had a phase where I'm like, oh, I would like to be in a relationship, or I would like to get married. Let me start looking on, whatever dating sites, or let me start going out more. I never really experienced that. Like, I never really experienced the gentleman comes to my house, picks me up for dinner. That was just not a thing for me. And, obviously I got married to Shei and that just never existed. But that doesn't mean like I had tons of guys approach me, like tons throughout when I was in college. And I never even considered dating them because it's like from the front glance, I've already seen you. You're not even reasonable. Like you're not sensible. Like the kind of things you're saying.
That's it.
That's it. Like literally once I already know that you're not Christian or you're not serious with your faith. I can't hear the, hey babe, you're fine. I can't even hear what you're saying. Once I already know that like you're not a serious person, you don't take your classes seriously. I don't even pay you attention because I don't know, like I'm attracted to someone who's on the same wavelength in terms of how we approach life, approach the things that matter at that phase of our lives. Like I was in school, so if we're in school, go study your book, go do what you got to do. And like, if you're not doing that, you're always partying around. Like I didn't even consider you. Another thing is like the guys who just come up to me and are already talking about sex, like at the initial conversations, like literally I'm not hearing what you're saying. Like you're talking and you're not talking to me. So like for the most part, the guys who approach me, like, and there was some point where I was like, I don't think I'm going to find a husband in this America because because I just felt like they were just all on serious. I'm like, what is going on? Like literally, I'm like, everyone who approached me, like, I'm like, I have no interest. And when Shei came to me, he didn't come to me like, hey, I want to date you. He came to me like, we have interest, like, let's just chat. Like, let's just be friends. Like, we were 20. Like, there's no hurry in life. As of then, I know if you're in your 30s or 40s now, it's like, okay, that's different. But then it was just like, let's just be friends. And he actually said, he was like, hey, I'm not looking to get into a relationship. Let's just chat and be friends. And I just thought that was the purest thing ever. And I was definitely very vulnerable because obviously he was interested in me. He just didn't say it. I think he didn't want to push me away. So now I know better. But I just thought, oh my gosh.
He is smooth. Okay.
Exactly. He was really smooth with that one. But I just opened up like I was opening up with a friend. And we had like really good connection. Like we would chat for like hours. And in my head, we were still friends. We would just chat about anything and everything. Sometimes we'll chat about the Bible, what we read in the Bible. Sometimes we just do Bible studies together on the phone. In my head, we're still friends. So,
it's still
yeah. Or we'll just chat about like just ethics, things that are happening around the world. Like, but our values always were the same. We always had the same opinions about things. And at some point and I've said this before, at some point it was kind of like a blurb, like I don't really know when I fell in love because we just got so close because it just made sense. Like I get you, you get me, we think along the same lines. So that's kind of how it happened for me. I didn't have the traditional, I'm going to start dating and I have this checklist. I didn't even get the privilege to create a checklist because we met so early in life. So yeah, that's how my dating life was, if that answers your question.
That was beautiful. I want to pick out things I'm hearing from you. Unconsciously or I would say unconsciously, you dated. You had a filter. Your values that help you to look at people who approach you and you're like, no, not you, no, move away from me. I'm serious. That was it. That was that phase for you in your own time, like the way it happens for you. Even though you didn't allow them to even like, okay, I'm not going on a date with you. No, no, you're not the one I'm looking for. That is it for people. And for some people, they might find themselves meeting up somewhere, going to dinner, going to dates. Don't get so so in over your heads and get carried away with the dinner and how he paid for your money, I paid for your food. Oh, he has that big wallet and whatever, that you forget to start looking at the way he treated he or she treated the waiter, or acted to with someone, was talking over the phone with someone, or things like that. So you were looking at things. And even when your husband came, the way he came allowed you to let him in, right? Because something in you resonated with him. And sometimes some things happen so naturally because we've put out some filters that help us to know who to let in and who not to let in. So if you're single on this line today, what are your filters? What are you using to funnel people that you're letting into your space? Is it more like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on? I'm open to anybody and anyhow and whatever. And you don't have like a filter at all. It wouldn't help you, wouldn't serve you in the long run. When you filter it, it helps you to narrow down your list and then zero in on people you can potentially. And just for me, Abisola here and Mr. Shea, I'm like so to me, what I've picked out from there is that friendship was the basis of your relationship.
Yeah.
Friendship was the basis that started with you guys. You don't even know how that pool of friendships, swept you into marriage. So let's talk about that. Talk about how your relationship kind of morphed. How did you like transition? It looks like it was a natural transition to you. It was happening, in a smooth way, but those were processes. Those were processes that made you okay and okay and okay. I'm like, okay, I like this guy. So tell us about how that relationship morphed for you into a serious relationship before even going into that marriage talk. But like, how did it morph? And talk about the process,
I think I don't really know that there was a difference between like when we became official boyfriend and girlfriend. It just continued to, I guess, our friendship just continued to build together. Both our parents were in Nigeria at the time, so my father would say like when Shay approached my father to say, he wanted to ask for my hand in marriage, my father was like, "You're already too close anyway. You people are too close because you're already too close anyway. You might as well go and get married." So that's how close we got, because in essence, he was my family here. I mean, I had my sister here. I think my brother came at some point, maybe closer to when we're about to get married, actually. But for the most part, it was just my sister and Sheyi were my family here. So we had no choice but to really get close to each other. We really leaned on, like we did everything together. Besides combining our finances, obviously then, but we did everything together. We prayed together. We played together. We went out together. Like we planned our days, our weekends. Everything was just like really together. After we graduated from our undergrad, we both went to do our masters at the same time. So we were really in each other's spaces. Our schools were very close to each other. Like everything was just kind of, we didn't live together, but we lived life together. I remember then I started my adulting process when after I already met she, like he's the one who taught me how to drive then when I was doing my masters, and we would get into arguments because he was just very aggressive with teaching me how to drive. But essentially, that's how I always say I grew up with him, like we lived life, my adulting process. He was in on the whole thing. I was in on the whole thing. Him getting his very first job, I was there, with me getting my very first job. He actually applied for the first job that I had. He wrote the cover letter and everything. And when they called me, they sent me an email for an interview. I was like, "Do you know this company?" Like this company randomly reached out to me. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's the one I applied to for you." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So that's how much like we did life together. I remember then I was teaching. I had like a random job. I was teaching at Copping State University, like just tutoring. And it paid me actually pretty decent for a tutoring position. It paid pretty sweet, a very decent salary. And my husband was like, you need to get an internship in the field you're trying to go into. Like, he was invested in my success. So he's like, you need to get an internship. I'm like, how am I going to do an internship when I'm teaching? He's like, do you want to be a teacher eventually? I'm like, no. So why are you doing it now? So he's like, quit that job. He found me an internship. Again, he's the one who applied for it for me. I went for the interview. He prepped me for it. I aced it. I got the internship. The internship was paying me exactly half of what the teaching position was paying me. But he's the one that was like, it's worth it. You know, eventually it's going to help you to get a job in your field. You know, like just living life and growing together, it just kind of happens seamlessly. So yes, that internship was incredibly helpful. Yes, I got my first job. You know, like the whole thing just kind of made sense. We got married shortly after I got my first job, and you know, the rest is history. So yeah.
History, sweet. All right, this is beautiful. I'm picking up things here and I want to welcome everyone who's joining us. My name is Funke Oladele. This is Mrs. Shof, and we're talking about dating and relationship conversations. I've been married about 6 years, going on 7. She's been married again, how many years?
For 9 years.
9 years. And we want to bring this to singles, really singles, because there's been a lot of issues with marriages and people even scared of getting married or finding someone. But we want to let you know that it is worthwhile. However, you have to prepare right. You have to have the right mindset to prepare. So she just talked about how she and her husband grew together. These days, people are looking for finished products. People are looking for people who are just finished products. You're not, yes, we've talked about it's good to have filters so you can know what you want. Have things that are deal breakers for you that you cannot compromise on. However, are you willing to grow with someone? Are you willing to teach? Are you teachable? From your story, I'm hearing you say you guys grew together. You learned together. You were patient with each other. Are you patient with one another? Are you going to allow the person to express themselves freely and to be able to, just grow in their own way and be there to support through that process rather than control, rather than I want you to be this way, or rather than, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is not, I like it. The healthy push, because he knew your goal. Are you taking time to know the other person's goal? Are you really intentional about knowing the person that you're with, or you're just all about yourself? And if you're not serving my purpose, that's it. Are you serving each other's purpose? Are you present with each other? Because really, I believe, again, your relationship, whatever you're doing when you're single, becomes the foundation, actually a mirror of the marriage you're going to have. And Abisola, tell us, how has your relationship mirrored, or this marriage, yes, and vice versa, mirrored that singleness, or the phase that you guys were when you were single? How has it mirrored each other? Tell me.
That's interesting. How has it mirrored each other? I mean, in terms of like our relationship with one another, like how we treat each other, I don't think that has changed. I don't think that has changed. Like, we still support each other. We support each other's, I guess, dreams and interests. Before we started the whole social media content creation thing, it's relatively new. Like, it's been just less than 2 years. So we've done other things in the past. At some point we've always had one side gig or the other. At some point I was doing like Ankara clothes, that I was selling like Ankara clothes. Like, Shay was like my biggest supporter. You carry suitcases everywhere. We'll go for like all these live shows, festivals. You set up your thing and sell them. We support each other in that way. He has his startup thing that he's doing now, and I support him. At some point, he took a break from work to do that. I'm like, yeah, go do it. I've also had moments in my life where I'm taking a break from work for like mental care and togetherness, and he's even the one that was like, babe, you need to take a break from work, like you absolutely need it. So we've always supported each other. I don't think that marriage would be so difficult if it's only one person that's invested in like just putting in effort. Like, it's really a two-way thing, and it's not like it's not two-way in the sense that, oh, this is my half of my responsibility and this is your half. It's two-way in the sense that we both chip in and do whatever we have to do to make this thrive. Whether it means that you're tired today and you need to rest, and I take on everything else, I take care of the kids today, I cook, I clean up, and we all go to bed. Or it means that as I'm cooking, you're cleaning. It can mean so many different things on so many different days. It's just both parties we have a household to maintain and to keep, and we just do whatever we need to do to make it happen. So I think the relationship has sort of grown and we've evolved. Again, we were talking the other day, like, I don't think that I'm the Bisola, not that I don't think, I know I'm not the Bisola that he met. How many years ago was that? 17 years ago, whatever. I'm mixing up my math. But I don't think 15 years ago, I was 20, yes. I don't think that I'm the Bisola that I was 15 years ago. And he's not the Shay that I met 15 years ago either. Like, he's different now. The Shay that I met then was crazy active, was into all these, like, I want to go surfing today, or I want to go running up the wall tomorrow, or I want to go doing taekwondo. Like, that's who Shay was. And he doesn't do all that anymore. But like, imagine if I was like mesmerized, and like, if that was the part of him that I was like, oh my God, he's always like doing, like, imagine if that's the kind of, like, I was like, oh, he's so cool, he's so fit, he does this and he does that. And like 15 years later, he doesn't do that anymore, so like, we've kind of grown to be different people. I was also talking the other day about how, like, I'm not the person that I used to be. Like, I used to be very, very timid. Like, if you had come to the Bisola of 15 years ago to come to an IG live, that would have been a big joke, because you and I were just looking at each other and I won't have anything to tell you. I was extremely timid. I was very, very introverted. I still think I'm introverted, but I think that now I'm more confident to say whatever I'm thinking. I would think a lot in my head, but I would never be bold enough to say it. And, I've evolved and grown over time. Like, the fact that I'm doing this here with you is, it's like, I'm just a different person. And a lot of my high school friends, sometimes they'll just randomly message me. They're like, who are you? Like, how is this? Are you really Abisola that's doing all these videos? Like, who is this? I don't understand it. And I'm like, change happens. And in marriage, you evolve with each other. Like, even though as you're changing, you're evolving, your marriage is growing, and you're rediscovering who you are, even physically. Like, we looked different than this 15 years ago. Like, I was once skinny looking, like, thick, like 15 years ago. And like, she loved that. He loved, like, I was like really, 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 really skinny, like super skinny. That's who he fell in love with, but that's not who I am 2 kids later and 15 years later. And he also has changed physically as well. Like, even my hair did not look like this 15 years ago. But like, that's just marriage, and I'm sure 15 years from now, again, the story is going to change again. But you just keep growing and evolving with each other. And I think at the core, the foundation is we love each other, and we're going to do whatever we have to do to make it work. So, yeah.
Wow, that was loaded. Yes, change happens. If you are holding on to the things that are not, things that are ephemeral right now, things that would fade, it will fade eventually. Yeah. What's going to be your cushion? What are you going to fall back on? And that's where you hear people say, I fell out of love. I'm no longer in love with this, because they're not the same person. They are going to change. Actually, you are going to change. If you're single, and that's why we're talking about having the right mindset, be invested in the person. And that's what I'm hearing from your story, from what you just talked about. You and your husband were invested in each other. You were truly interested in each other. Yes, those other things were, perks. Those were the things that you you actually got attracted to in the beginning. It's important to be attracted to the person you're with. But if your focus is only on physical attraction, physical alone, it will change at some point in time. Or even if it doesn't change and the other things don't match up, you're going to be miserable. Right. So we have to have our heads in the right place. Thank you so much for sharing that. Because actually that kind of like morphed into the next question I was gonna ask you, like, do you stop the work after you've met the person and you feel like this is the person I want to be with? But you just said you grow together. You're
Mm-hmm.
patient with each other. You invested in one another and it gets you to where you want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so beautiful. Oh my God. I want to say in the comments, some people were saying that you are aging backwards, that you just since you were younger, that you just keep getting younger and younger. And some
Mhm.
people were responding saying, well, because she's happy in her marriage, that is so sweet. But yeah, marriage is sweet. But before that, there's a lot of work that goes into it. So we've talked about how you and your husband went. Not everybody's story would be like that. However, like to be able to determine the one for them, what do you think that a person should kind of like watch out for? What should be the signs that they should watch out for to actually identify the one for them?
Mhm. I think that you should write down, like, I didn't get that chance, like I said, to write down the things that matter to me, but I think I kind of knew it subconsciously. I think that it's a good exercise to write down what are the things that actually matter to me in my future spouse? What do I want to see in him? Do I want someone who is funny, and why? Why do I want someone who's funny so bad? So add your why, don't just write a list of nice to haves. So write a list of the things that actually truly matter, that you cannot do without in that person. And after you write that list, write a list of the things that are nice to have, right? I want a girl with long hair. Why do I want a girl with long hair? I want a girl with short hair. Why do I want a girl with short hair? Because you think she has long hair today, tomorrow she can decide, I kind of want to get a haircut. So you need to ask yourself those kind of questions, like, why do I want these things? And also separate these things truly matter. These are the foundations that I'm looking for. Separate those from, these are nice to have, right? I want a guy with a dimple. Well, why? So like, I think it's good to have your nice to haves. And we did a YouTube video about this. And one thing that I put on my nice to have is that I wanted a guy who was keeping himself, not for me, but for God. And that was, I don't think it's a requirement for everyone. It actually shouldn't be a requirement for everyone, but it was a nice to have, actually. It was a very strong nice to have for me, and a conversation that I had with God. And I said, this is what I really want. And the analogy that I gave God was Joseph in the Bible. And I said, I really like Joseph. I remember reading his story as a young girl, and I was like, oh my God, Joseph is so cool. Like the Bible described him as a young man, described him as intelligent, described him as hardworking, described him as good looking. And like when the incident happened with his Oga's wife and he maintained his integrity, I was like, oh, I want a man just like this. Like literally, that was my inspiration, was Joseph. And I literally had that conversation with God. I'm like, God, please just keep him for me. Wherever he is in the world right now, like just keep him for me. But that was my nice to have. But everyone's list is different. Everyone's story is different. Like that doesn't mean that people who have had sex before marriage are bad people or they're not going to make good spouses. Of course not. That was just a nice to have. So I would say make those lists. And I will also say, like, don't ignore your instincts. In which case, if you're Christian, I call it the Holy Spirit in me, that the man may not have displayed something or the lady may not have displayed something, but something just tells you this ain't right. Don't fight it. I get DMs sometimes and I'm like, they tell me, oh, something feels wrong, or he does this, but I just kind of want to make it work. Like, if you're already seeing those signs, like just let it go. Just release it. Okay. I think that truly when the right person comes along, I don't think that you would be asking those questions of, is he the one? Could he be the one? I think somehow you would know. Like by the time you're starting to question the person or question certain things about the person, whether or not those things are good or bad, like when you're starting to question some things that you're just not comfortable with as a person, that doesn't mean the thing is bad. But when you start questioning to that level, like, just let it go. Like, I promise you, the right person is out there, and when it comes, like you just kind of know. And again, some call it instincts, but I call it the Holy Spirit, just kind of you feel peace about it. And don't start forcing peace where there's no peace, please, because a lot of people like just say, oh, I feel at peace with this. But you really know deep down when you're like, oh, he gets angry very easily, but you're like, oh, I can manage it. I'm the one who triggered him. You're not the one who triggered him, or, everybody does things that make people upset all the time, no matter how good a person you are. But how is your spouse going to handle it? Is he going to throw up a flare and throw up a fit every single time that happens? Those are things to think about.
Oh my God. I'm like, can we just stop it here? That was loaded, Abisola. Don't force peace where there's no peace. I'm hearing that. Please, if you're finding comments or quotables, put them in the chat. Things that you think, has kind of spoken to you or pierced you right there as she's talk about it. I want to take a moment because you talked about faith. We've talked about faith today. I'm very big on faith. And I want to talk about the God factor, especially for Christians. I would like to highlight here that dating for Christians is different from dating for the world or the way the world dates. We are not called to be like the world. We're not. Romans 12, chapter 1 and 2. You cannot conform to the patterns of the world. I would say that, and this is part of the reason why God has directed me to start this. You cannot be a Christian and decide to date like the world, and you get the result that you called for, and you then expect to get the results you want from God. You cannot put your own personal, I would say, selfish desires on godly results. No, if you want to depend totally on God, He will take you to that destination you're looking for. It will get you the results you need, but you don't help God help you. And I'd like to say that too, because you talked about God here. You probably thought that you were younger and you saw Joseph's story and you prayed to God. That was a prayer. You prayed. Bisola just shared. Welcome everyone. Bisola just shared when she was younger. She read the story of Joseph. And she thought, wow, a man with integrity, a man that stood his ground, a man that was intelligent. That was your list. That was your list when you were younger. And you told God, I want a man like this that has reserved himself for you. Was she that man?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So God answered your
absolutely. Oh yeah.
God answered. God gave you an embodiment of what you've asked Him. So if you're a Christian on this line today, what have you asked God? Like, have you just only went to find someone, or you've gone to find someone and you say, God, make him that person? It's not going to happen. That's your creation. Deal with it. But if you want God to do something, He works with a blank slate. It works with something, it works with you saying, God, this is what I want. Take it and work on that person. It gives you even more bonus. So yeah, this might sound churchy, preachy. God's standard never changes. And I would like for you to talk about that, Abisola, because I don't want to miss a teachable moment. Because everybody goes back out and continues to do the same thing and then put their blame on God. I wonder, sometimes God just look like, okay. And I would use myself as an example too. Dating initially, it's more like, oh, okay, you pray about it, because sometimes as a Christian, you commit something into God's hand. But before then, how much of it was left into God's hand that you think has brought the person you can potentially be with to you? So that then you can say, God, is this what I've prayed for? But if it's you initiating it, you have to make sure that God, you're on the same page as God. So I'd like for you to weigh in on that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've told he had an incident that happened before he met me. And when he told me that story, I was like so shocked. And I was like, it was my prayers that covered you. I'm not kidding. I was like, for real, it was my prayers that covered you, because this and this is why I prayed to God. I was like, let God keep you for me, like wherever you are. And he was like, oh, okay. So it all made sense. Like whatever you want, God does hear our prayers. And even though it feels like it's taking long, I don't feel like I'm qualified to talk about this because I met Sheyi early and we got married early. We got married when I was 25 or 26. So, you know, I know a lot of, well, for a lot of people who are like in their late 30s, 40s that are like waiting and waiting and waiting, and it feels like you're waiting for so long. I want you to know that God does see you. God does care about you. And like Funke said, God's standards never change. And you shouldn't lower your standards or change your standards or compromise and just say, well, I'll just manage this area because I want to be married by the time I'm 35 and then they're 34 now and you just, you know, like it's just this one little area, I'll just manage it with him, you know, we can make it work. I don't think that that's a good idea because as fast as you rush into that marriage, you can rush out just as fast, you know, and then it's not worth it at the end. So God does want you to be happy in your marriage. He does have, you know, if it's something that you desire, it's something that he's able to do. His standards never change. The Bible is the Bible. There are all sorts of things nowadays, man. All sorts of things. I was chatting with a group of people. I don't even know whether to call them friends, but a group of people, acquaintances maybe, and they all had very interesting opinions on how, you know, relationships are managed nowadays. And one of the things that was the topic of conversation was the concept of open marriages or open relationships in general. So what that means, for those who are not familiar with it, is, you know, I'm a woman and maybe I'm dating a guy and we can both sit down and talk about it and consensually agree that we want to be in an open relationship. So I can start seeing maybe one other guy, he can start seeing, there's like so many different ways that this can be structured. And I'm there sitting there like, my brain is spinning. What is this we're talking about? This is ridiculous. This is absurd. And they're like, well, if it doesn't hurt anyone, if both parties actually agree, you know, like what it doesn't hurt him. Like I'm not cheating on him because he has agreed that it's okay. And then to date the other person, they know who the other person is. I know who their other person is. Everyone is happy about it. The other people know about our relationship. It's just like everyone is happy about it. It's not hurting anyone in the world. Then that's okay. It's okay to you guys, but that's not God's standard for relationships. Like that's not God's design for marriage. Like it just literally can never be okay. I don't care how much you justify it. That's one example. Another example of what, you know, what's going on nowadays. There's this series that was on YouTube. I think it was trending like last year or 2 years ago. Something therapy. Gosh, I'm blanking out. It's something therapy. It was like trending. It's like a British show or something where they had these people, these 3 different couples or 2 different couples. I think 2 different couples. And anyway, it was like this therapy show where they're talking to a therapist about their issues and we're discovering all these things about them. And essentially the therapist is supposed to help them with their relationship. And it was drama packed. Obviously, that's why it was trending. It was a lot of drama, a lot of things going on in their relationships that we're discovering. And we're watching how they're interacting with the therapist, how the therapist is asking all these interesting questions that are revealing things, bringing up emotions and things like that. And after like episode 4 or 5, I was like, what is all this mess about? And I sat down and I thought about it. I'm the kind of person that analyzes shows or movies that I watch. And I was like, you know what? This whole thing that all of us are wasting hours of our time to watch is literally because people are not following God's plan. Like, honestly, simply put, like if you had followed God's plan all along, like half of their issues, 99% of their issues could have been eradicated if there was no premarital sex. Don't come for me because I know it's a common thing now. But like literally, if there was half of the issues, like literally 99% of their issues was like remove the sex factor and you don't even have those issues. When you really dive down to the core of it, you know, yes, there were some other minor things that they had, but I really sat down to think about it and I'm like, Bisola, I'm using my time to watch these people that are like really, they're just not following God's plan. Like, what's the point? And I just closed the whole thing down. But God's plan is always good. He knows what's good. He knows what's right. His wisdom is way above us. So no matter how much we justify things with our human minds, he's like 200 steps above us. So yeah, follow the Bible. If you're Christian, at least, if you're Christian, follow the Bible. If you're not Christian, I think in general, we know what is good ethics. We know what is right versus what is wrong. And some things, when they start to sound weird, you know that it's not right. So yeah, I will stop talking.
Oh, wow. That is huge. Thank you so much. So we talked from what you just said. You talked about praying for your partner, praying for that future partner that you're looking for. Pray for them. I would agree with you. There was a prayer that I prayed, and I'd like to mention to people here, I'm writing a book. I've written a book that's going to be coming out on dating and relationship, really for singles. And really, there are prayers you need to pray for your future husband or your future wife. She talked about, God, keep my husband for me. She prayed that he was a guy that would be reserved and waiting, and be sold out to God. God's standard does not change. She prayed for that man, and he was able to tell her something happened to him, that she was able to confirm that my prayer over you answered. I would say the same thing for me too. Pray for your husband. There's this prayer that I included in my book. Talk about, you have to pray for your husband, that whatever is tying them down, pray. Sometimes you're with somebody, that's not the relationship for you. So you might be praying that, God, make this a man or this woman my husband. They're not your husband. So you're holding someone else's husband down or someone else's wife down, and you're not letting them go. So you need to pray those kind of prayers that helps you to release your husband or your wife to you, and even keep them for you, for God's plan, so you guys can achieve that together. It's important. God, pray. I think we're going to take questions very soon. And Abisola has said it all. The standard of God doesn't change. Premarital sex. That if we allow that, sometimes it breaks things, it messes things up, messes the timeline, doesn't allow God to work the way he needs to work. We need to talk about these things. The sound of sex, I would say the noise about sex is louder than the noise about not having sex, about purity. It's not even about virginity anymore, guys. It's not about virginity, stay a virgin, and then people who are not virgins will say, well, I'm no longer a virgin, so I don't need to reserve myself. It's okay. Purity at any point in time. And even if you've done it before, you can still be pure and allow God to work through that relationship. So I think we'll take questions here. Thank you so much, Abisola. You're doing wonderfully well. I'm like, wow, I don't want to let you go now. But we would wrap up soon. I want people to be able to ask questions. So there's a comment here. How do we follow God's plan when the pastors y'all look up to don't even follow God's plan? You have any thoughts about that?
Yes, God's plan is based on the Bible, period. God's plan is not based on the pastor. It's not based on your auntie. It's not even based on your dad or your mom. Because for a lot of us Nigerians that grew up in homes where, the parents are extremely strict, and we have this kind of reverence of fear for them. It's not based on what daddy says. Yeah, daddy says that. But when I left home at 17 or 18 years old, and I came to the United States, daddy wasn't here, mommy wasn't here. I could have done whatever I wanted. I lived in a dorm room by myself. I could have literally done anything that I wanted. I could have, gone wild. But God's plan is based on the Bible. It's not based on the fact that I'm now in America with freedom. I can, it's based on the Bible, period. And it's unfortunate. I mean, there are pastors who, don't go to a church where you're questioning the pastor's integrity or questioning whether or not the pastor is following the Bible. Then that's not the right church for you. So find the place where you actually, when we joined our current church, like I think a week or two after we joined, we decided, you know what, I think we want to stay here. And you know what Shea and I did? We sent the pastor an email. Hey, sir, we would like to schedule a meeting with you. Why? I just want to kind of know more about you. I want to know where you stand with a lot of things that pertain to the things in the Bible, because there are a lot of things where nowadays some pastors are fluid on some things so I asked very direct questions that I wanted to know from him. And initially he was like, no one has ever done this before. I said, I know. I don't want to follow someone that I don't know where they're going. So I want to be sure we are going the same direction, So we asked him very specific, targeted questions, and he gave examples from his life. And I was like, okay, your head is where, is where we want it to be, and we felt comfortable there. But even then, he's not God. He's still man. So God is my standard, period. I don't care what, I trust my pastors, and that's why I'm in my church. And I do listen to their sermons, and I believe in it. But Yeah, at the end of the day, it's God we're reporting to, not Pastor so and so.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I see a comment here about, if we're following the Bible, what about when Sarah asked Abraham to have sex with their maid? And, we have to look at things like that. Yes, there are teachable moments in the Bible. If you read that scripture on, you will see how God dealt with that decision, because that was not God's plan. So even with us as Christians, with pastors or certain stories, God used them to teach us lessons that we shouldn't, because with Ishmael, whatever baby came out of that was not God's plan for them. That was them trying to help God. And we tend to do that too in our desperate moment. So we're going to liken that to when you're single right now. If you're desperate, just like Sarah, you're so desperate to get married as a man or a woman, you're going to get your Ishmael. And it's still not going to be God's plan for you. So do you want to either live with Ishmael later and never get that promised child that God has given to you, or would you wait? Would you wait? I'd like for you to talk about that too.
No, I agree with what you said, and I think that I hate to get into these not Bible conversations, but Bible arguments, because there's a lot of things that there's a lot of stories in the Bible that we can start to analyze today that we would lead onto tomorrow. And I have a friend, I'll answer your question in a second. I have a friend who is starting to draw like different inferences from the Bible to justify a certain lifestyle that they want to live. And so I've had this extensive back and forth. Okay, but when the Bible said this, and when the Bible said that, and when the Bible said women should cover their hair, and when the Bible said this and that, and I say, honestly, at the end of the day, listen to the Holy Spirit within you. Do you want to, you know what is right and what is wrong, and the Holy Spirit guides us. And I think that sometimes we just want to engage in this back and forth arguments just for the sake of it. But I think deep down, let the Holy Spirit guide you, right? Do you want to go and get what did Sarah do? Do you want your husband to have don't take things out of context. There's a lot of context, and there's a lot of there are deeper explanations for the context of the things that happen in the Bible. And, you can go into the theology of all of these stories. But I think that we understand where God's heart is. I think that if you're a Christian and you truly seek God's heart, and if you have questions about specific things in the Bible, truly seek the heart of God. Like, God, what were you saying here? Or what were you trying to do here? What were you trying to pass across here? Because I don't understand, and this is driving me crazy. Like, why would this be in the Bible? And I think coming with that kind of heart, right? Like, I want to know your will, and I want to know your intent in this kind of situation, is a lot different than just like bringing out things from the Bible and saying, but why was this there? And why is this there? Like, come to God with a pure heart, and come to God with a heart that is intent to learn and truly know his will. And surely God will speak to you. Like, God, he will tell you his will, and he will tell you what exactly that he wants you to do.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to another comment here. Someone talked about, sorry, I'm going to scroll down. It went away. Let's talk about timelines. Can we talk about time frame on relationships? I believe you don't need to date for long. If God says go, then go.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think it's different for everyone. Some people date for 10 years. I don't recommend that. But some people date for some people some people actually heard someone that said like the same day they met the person they proposed or something like that. Let God guide you. I can't say, dates for 3 months and then it's okay, and then something happens and you come back to Bisola and you're like, but you said that. So I say, definitely get to know the person, like get to understand the essence of who they are. That's the barest minimum that you can do. But other than that, pray and ask for guidance. I don't think that there's any hard and fast rule on, you have to date for at least a year, especially when you're getting older. I think that people who are more mature kind of know what they want and what they're looking for. But I don't have a guideline. If that's what you're looking for, I think you kind of know when you know. And also, like, I will also say just be patient with yourself. Like, don't rush into it, whatever that definition means for you. Like, just take your time to at least fully know the person and what they stand for, so that you're not like surprised by certain things that come up later in the future.
Right, right. I can't say it even better than that. God doesn't really work with timelines. It doesn't work with our human timelines. However, we have to make sure we hear God for ourselves. We have to hear God, and know that, hey, you will get confirmation if you're both on the same wavelength, or you're trying to work together and being led together. And I do hope that that works for anyone that is looking for, their life partner, or the person that God has set for them. I would take one or two more questions if there are any, but this has been wonderful. We want to mention again, someone talked about following pastors and things like that. There are some people who wait for pastors to tell them who to marry. I'd like to kind of talk about that. Or it's the pastor that told me that God said that this is the person I should marry. Any thoughts about that?
Oh, that's a question for me. That's interesting. I think that the same way that God spoke to that pastor, God can also speak to you. Like, we're all children of God, just like the pastor is a child of God. You're also a child of God. So, if God spoke to the pastor, which he can do, he should also speak to you and say, God, tell me what you told Pastor so and so. I want to hear for myself. Am I not your child? And let him tell you. I think I will stop talking, but that's because a lot of people can take words. I've learned that a lot of people just take words and start repurposing it. But yeah, let God speak to you as well, just like he spoke to the pastor for confirmation. God does provide confirmation when he speaks, and that's a thing. So yeah.
It does. Thank you so much. Actually, for me, at this time, I think I'm done with, questions. You've been amazing. I want to welcome everyone and thank you all for joining this live session today. We're bringing the sessions to help singles prepare for their life partners, prepare for a happy and sweet marriage. I think I would like to wrap up with one thing about marriage, because somebody said, Lady in Yellow, you have such a beautiful smile. So sweet. And so you want to look at preparing for that marriage. And Abisola and I are married. I would like for you to talk about, just wrapping up now, preparing for marriage. You did mention earlier that there are great marriages. So to kind of like wrap this up by giving that ray of hope, make it like your wrap up to someone that is looking for their life partners. Some are tired of this dating scene because it's crazy. Some are in relationships and waiting that this becomes the relationship they're looking for, or some just haven't found someone yet. What would be your word of encouragement to them?
I want to say, first of all, that I acknowledge that it's tough. I don't want to be one of those people that I'm like, oh yeah, just wait and God is going to come through. Like, if you're one of those people who you're like, you just really desire marriage and it's just like, it's not coming. It's like, geez, I haven't even found someone I'm even talking to, for crying out loud, and I'm 39, like, it's tough. And I want to acknowledge that. Like, I've never been in your shoes and I don't want to imagine what that feels like. So, but I think that what I would say is, one, don't lower your standards. Your standards are your standards. And I think that God loves you enough to grant you as his child, like, what your heart's desires are. So I would not stop praying about it. I would also take action, like go out to places, try to meet people. Don't just be under your covers and say, I'm praying for a lady to come. There's a lot of God when in our comments. And I'm like, are you all seeing each other? Like, the men are writing God women. The women are writing God when. Can you all see each other and like slide in your DMs? Like, what is going on? I don't get it. So like, just meet, like, just actually be open to talking to people. It may not even be for dating. It may just be like, just be genuinely interested in people. Who are you? What do you do? Like, what are your interests? And who knows, it may even be like, you can connect them with someone else who does some business that they're interested in. And it may just be that, or it may be that it turns into a relationship, but it really doesn't matter. So like, step out of your comfort zone and like being open to meeting people. What else would I say? I would also say, and don't hate me for this, but I also say that there's beauty in singleness and there's beauty in marriage. And there's also the cons of singleness and the cons of marriage. I know we've only talked about the beautiful part, but sometimes it's just like, I just want to be by myself. Oh my God, leave me alone. So there's pros and cons of being single and being married. And while you're single, before that gets taken away from you, enjoy the single phase as much as you can. When I say milk it to the core. Because once it's gone, it's gone. And like, you don't get those pros anymore. You only get the pros of marriage along with the cons. So whatever that means, I be watching my single friends doing things that I'm like, oh, that must be nice. There's definitely the pros. If you're single with no kids, that is even like, listen, there's a lot of pros. Travel wherever you want to. You get 100% of your salary to yourself. Half of my salary goes to daycare. Half of it goes to daycare. And that's with one child in daycare. Now imagine when we had two. So, like that money, I can use it to travel. I can use it to do, whatever I want to do. I can sleep in on Saturday until like 11. These are just very random things that I'm mentioning, but I'm sure like if I thought deeper, like there's so much on Friday night, you can up and go out. Not that you can't do these things in marriage, but there's levels of complications. Now I have to coordinate. I have to get babysitter who's charging per hour. It gets complicated. So I promise you the time for marriage is going to come and you're going to enjoy the bliss in marriage. But while you're single, like enjoy the bliss because once it's gone, it's gone. And you have to deal with marriage. But I do pray for you all who desire marriage that don't yet have it. I pray that God will show you favor. I pray that God will grant you your heart's desires. I pray that you won't have to lower your standards to get the right person. I pray you will not end up with some cuckoo person. I pray that, everything that you desire, whether it's the list that we talked about the must have, like the deal breakers, or it's the nice to haves. I really just pray that God will give you that ideal person that is for you. Invite us to the wedding. Wedding happens. Yeah.
Yes, it will happen. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. I appreciate that. The singleness, please, we cannot stress that enough. Date yourself. Enjoy yourself. And if you don't need to be in a relationship, if you don't need to be dating, just even if you want to, fall in love with you first. Love yourself first. Don't be looking for somebody to make you feel whole. Be whole in your singleness. That I cannot emphasize that enough. I would tell you, even for myself, I was so engrossed in building relationships prior to meeting my husband that I lost a lot of my single time that I could have used and spent on myself. Yes, those were lessons. We would learn, we would really take lessons along our ways. However, just taking time to yourself, I think God desires us to be whole when you're single. Develop that relationship with God. Develop that relationship with yourself. I'm telling you, when the right person comes along, you won't have to struggle through it. You guys just, if you're whole and you're whole in a single state and your partner is whole in their single state, guess what? You just merge. It's like peanut butter jelly sandwich. It just happens, so naturally. And so, like she said, we pray for you that you get God's will for you. Somebody that you both will fulfill God's plans together, that you can do life together, that even when they're annoying to you. And I'd like to say, isn't he annoying sometimes? Aren't you annoying?
A lot of times. Most times.
You laugh through it, right? And you're just so annoying, but you laugh through it at the end of the day. You can't get you can't get mad at each other for so long if you just allow things to flow naturally and allow God to work through that. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for being part of this, and we hope to see you next time. So next Saturday, we're going to be having Dr. Shola Jordan Adeoye joining us at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Invite your friends. This sessions, we're hoping that they will be life transforming, that you can learn some things that will be helpful to you. Invite your single friends. Abisola, I want to appreciate you today. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure having you. Yes, we wish you the best in your marriage. We pray we continue to see that sweetness, the joy, the peace, the happiness that you are exuding and sharing. We want to appreciate Mr. Shof for holding down the fort at this time and letting you join us. And I believe he's watching that. Thank you for making her smile like that and beam like that. So thank you all. We wish you well. Have a great weekend, and we will make this available to you to watch at a later time. Thank you, and see you later.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye.